Hello friends, I just wanted to make a quick video going over the current state of Fellowship after the recent balance patches, as well as the direction the game seems to be going towards, and finally what seasonal updates are going to look like for Fellowship. So first and foremost, if you don't already know, Fellowship is going to be a seasonal based game, but what exactly does that mean? Well, it basically means that all the character progress that you've made is going to be reset and the leaderboards are going to be refreshed. It's unclear exactly what a seasonal reset is going to look like, but I think it's safe to assume that we're going to lose all of the character gear, the resources like gold, our talent points, and stuff like that. The only things that are probably safe to assume that we keep are anything cosmetic related, like outfits or mounts. But we also don't really know what the seasonal cadence is going to be yet for Fellowship. That's kind of one of the points of early access, is to try things out and see what feels right for the developers. But overall, when a season does reset, we can expect a few things to happen. First, we can expect new dungeons to be released, and it's not really quite clear yet as whether a new dungeon is going to be introduced on top of existing dungeons, just kind of adding to the overall catalog of options available to players, or will a new dungeon come out and it replaces an existing dungeon for that season, so there would be like a rotation of dungeons every single season. We don't really know yet. The second thing a new season is going to introduce is going to be new heroes. We don't really know what the frequency of new heroes is going to be, if it's going to be every season, if each season is going to contain one hero or two or more possibly. But based off of Hamish's comments in a recent dev stream, as well as some of the announcements on the Discord, we know that they're delaying the upcoming seasonal release. It was postponed from December, now releasing sometime in early 2026. And the cause of this delay is supposedly the development of heroes. And that's plural, as in heroes, so there's going to be more than one. We already kind of knew about the first or the 10th hero, which was assumed to be a new tank hero. So I think if we're getting an additional 11th in this first seasonal reset, then I wonder if that would be a healer. And if that's the case, and just on the topic of new heroes, what kind of archetypes are you guys excited to see introduced into Fellowship? Let me know down in the comments. I'm curious to see what you guys think, because I know a lot of people have been asking for pet-based or like a necromancer type class. So I'm just kind of curious to see what the most popular opinions are. Now, whenever the conversation of seasonal resets comes up, I know there are a lot of people that are upset with the idea of losing all the progression that they've made for their characters. And trust me, like, I do understand the frustration there. Like, you work so hard to acquire all this gear, build up your gems, and it feels bad to lose all that progress that you've put in throughout that season. But for the health of the game and for the longevity of the game, you have to kind of think of it this way. If we don't have seasons, then the veteran players are going to just infinitely like continue to stay in eternal leagues. And that means anything that's not eternal is probably going to be a dead queue, because, well, there's not really going to be a great new player experience anymore, because there's no queues for new players, which means new players can't get any gear. So realistically, the only way that you can kind of keep the game feeling healthy is by resetting player progression and forcing people to go back in through all of the different leagues and progress back into Eternal. This method is better for new player experience, because you're going to have people populating the queues so that everyone can try the game out and have a better experience. In addition, these seasonal refreshes will also let developers introduce new features or larger changes on a seasonal reset, and this will be a really good way for them to gather data, since most people will be progressing again from scratch, which means there's a lot more data to pull from a larger range of difficulties, so that they can balance around those things. So overall, by doing these seasonal resets, I think it lets the developers be a little bit more aware of balancing and lets them collect the data that they need to fine tune some of these newer features that will be coming. Moving on from seasons, I just wanted to talk about some of the recent balance patches that we've had and kind of the glimpse that we've been getting on the direction of Fellowship from them. At this point, we've basically seen nothing but buffs coming out for characters. Even some of the top performers like Mara, Rhyme, and Tariq haven't really been nerfed at all. In fact, it's only been buffs for all these characters. I think we had Ilarion get a buff. Both tanks have been getting frequent buffs, healers have been getting frequent buffs, and I think we kind of get a sense of the direction that balancing is going to be going from here, and that seems to be bring up the lower performers and not necessarily nerf the highest performers, especially since from what I've seen so far, most of the high performers or top performers still seem to be relatively close. Yeah, there might be some outlier mechanics that will eventually get tweaked, but you know, it's still preseason. We're still figuring some things out. But yeah, overall, I really like the direction of bringing characters up to par rather than nerfing some of the outliers. Tanks and healers, however, have been getting pretty substantial buffs the last couple of patches, to the point now where they've gotten so many buffs to their damage that they basically function as a third DPS throughout the overall dungeon damage. The healers and tanks are, you know, they're pretty beefy now when it comes to their damage output. But damage buffs aren't the only thing that we've been seeing come through. Like, Helena has been getting pretty frequent sustainability buffs, which has made her feel so much better to play. Sylvie got a couple throughput heal buffs, I think, which makes her sustain pretty insane as well. So I think these couple of changes actually signify a few things. So the first thing with these damage buffs that we're receiving is it seems like the developers want healers and tanks, wants both of those roles to actually contribute meaningful damage throughout the dungeon. And this will help clear or increase your overall clear speed. So I think that will kind of help smooth out some of the harder difficulties because everyone is just doing more damage now. So everyone is able to clear some of these packs sooner or faster, which reduces the amount of lethal mechanics potentially wiping the group. Secondly, we are seeing sustain increase, which means that tanks are going to be a little bit more survivable, which means that they can maybe pull a little bit more. Healers are going to be able to cover for mistakes that the group might make in some of these pulls. So overall, I think that this helps some of the lower leagues especially, but also helps push some of the boundaries on the upper leagues, because I know tanks were getting trucked pretty high up in Eternal. So again, this kind of raises that that skill ceiling a little bit, or the potential threshold for dungeon limits. So realistically, I think that we can see that the developers kind of know what players enjoy the most, and that's doing big pulls and just trying to deal big damage and have fun with it. So overall, from these recent balance patches, I'm really happy to see the direction that the game is going. So we still have a few core features that are missing, but we've been getting some of the things that players have been asking for, such as a better UI tracker. They've implemented a temporary solution for that until they can introduce a more permanent player customized UI option for buff tracking. It's really nice to see the developers be so receptive of feedback and see some of these features coming through. So really happy to see what the future of Fellowship holds, because overall the game has been such a great time so far. But that's going to wrap up this little insight video, I suppose. Let me know down in the comments what you're thinking of Fellowship in its current state. But this was GooberTroy. As always, thanks for watching, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.